Hello, my name's Simon Bates. I hope you've enjoyed the conference so far. Now, this next session is about supervisors' safety leadership. Just first, a little background about me. I'm a chartered occupational psychologist and safety consultant, working in the major hazards and construction sectors primarily, delivering training on various topics such as safety leadership, emergency management and response, behavioural safety, well-being at work, and stress management. I've been doing this approximately 10 years. I also work for the British Psychological Society as an assessor on their qualification, and also the Health and Care Professions Council as a registrant assessor. Okay, that's a little background about me. So, this session is about supervisor safety leadership, and we're thinking about transforming the role of supervisors. And I'll present a blueprint for increasing safety performance and using occupational psychology to unlock potential, which broadly means developing confidence with engagement, coaching, and presentation skills to facilitate effective safety leadership. I'll come on to that a little more shortly. But just to say, in most organisations, it's fair to say that the local supervisor or shift team leader really sets the tone for safety in the local work group. These people are pivotal in communicating, demonstrating, and policing the safety management policies and procedures to ensure correct safety behaviours on the ground. The range of tools and techniques to achieve this safety leadership rely on effective people skills. Yet often we see supervisors or shift team leaders who aren't fully confident to engage, coach and present information to their teams. So in this session, we're going to look at how occupational psychology can contribute to this. And we're going to think about such aspects as modelling safe acts, supervisors always demonstrating the correct safety behaviours, and challenging unsafe acts, so supervisors always addressing the unsafe behaviours. And also we'll look at safety audits, which are supervisors conducting observations and discussions with workers on site, and also toolbox talks, where the supervisors would present these toolbox talks using context-specific examples and learning from other industries, for example. Okay, so we'll move on. I'll highlight the contribution of occupational psychology to transforming the role of supervisors and developing this safety leadership at the operational level. And this includes developing leadership and engagement skills, embedding positive safety behaviours into the organisational culture, transforming supervisors' safety performance capability, prioritising people skills for supervisors, and empowering supervisors for the benefit of people and the organisation. So we're going to cover all those things. And during the presentation, I'm going to make reference to the 5 core areas of occupational psychology practice, but more on that later. Firstly, let's frame the problem. Here's a few statistics from the Office of National Statistics, which is a UK statistics body, and the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, another UK personnel body. Okay, so 2023 ONS labour market overview. Says we've got 30 million payrolled employees in the UK. So that's 30 million people on payroll, 30 million. A little bit older report, the ONS Industry and Occupation Census from 2021, says that there's 5% of the workforce are supervisors. These are categories L10 and L11, supervisors and technical occupations in their census survey. So if you took that 5% of 30 million, that's 1.5 million supervisors in the UK workforce. Okay, so let's then just move through to the 2023 CIPD Good Work Index. Now this is a survey across the UK industries. And the finding there is that there's 18% of employees with intention to quit in the next 12 months. So if we take that 18% of the 1.5 million, that's 270,000 supervisors with intentions to quit in the next 12 months. So that means the UK labour market needs 270,000 new supervisors each year. Now, this is very broad brush statistics, but it frames a problem. There's a constant need for a large number of supervisors in the UK workforce in all industries. However, employers often give either no or inadequate training and support to new supervisors, particularly in the areas of people skills development, and also, you might say, mental health support in the workplace. Supervisors are often promoted for their technical skills, with less focus on the people skills side of things, which is vitally important, as we'll see. So what that means is there's a clear opportunity for businesses to offer better training and support to help supervisors adjust to those additional demands placed on them, particularly around things like the people side, which leads to safety performance, productivity, and the effectiveness of their teams. So we'll talk a little more about that later, but that hopefully frames the problem. Now, occupational psychologist. For those that aren't as familiar with the topic as others, we can just revisit the areas of occupational psychology and what they can contribute to transforming the role of supervisors. At the core, the 5 core areas of occupational psychology training and practice, and these come from the MSc training course and the British Psychological Society qualification, which is known as chartership. Okay, so these 5 core areas of occupational psychology practice. Psychological assessment at work. And that comes in with the recruitment and selection. We've probably all done various questionnaires, personality inventories, those sorts of things over the years. And that's a large area of occupational psychology practice in the assessment arena. Okay, and then there's the whole topic of learning, training, and development as a concept. This is training, the theory of delivering learning and evaluating training. There's a lot more to delivering training than just presenting a few slides. So training, when it's done very thoroughly and properly, you'd want to evaluate the return on investment and whether those behaviours that you might have trained actually embed in the workforce and you can see some performance improvement, these sorts of things. So there's learning, training, and development. Then the next one is leadership, engagement, and motivation. And that sort of area covers such things as leadership styles, theories of engagement and motivation that are used in the industry, and focus on that areas. The next one is well-being at work, and we're all very familiar, no doubt, with the topics of well-being and stress management and all these sorts of things in the modern workplace. Very important to all industries. And then the final area is work design, organisational change and development. So from a safety point of view, that could be an intervention that looks at safety culture, for example, changing an organisation to a more high performance safety culture. Work design, it could be changing the layout of the workplace, or could be the ergonomics of a workstation, for example, those sorts of things. So they're the 5 broad areas of occupational psychology. And what we're going to look at now is what that occupational psychology can contribute to transforming the role of supervisors in terms of safety leadership. And that starts with developing leadership and engagement skills. Okay, so supervisors must consistently model safe acts, safe behaviours, and also challenge unsafe acts, unsafe behaviours. They've got to always demonstrate the correct safety behaviours. Okay, there's never a moment where they cannot do that. And And supervisors also need to be engaged with the safety function and priorities. So this means a full understanding of the policies and procedures. They need to have some input into the safety function, help develop safety in their organisation. And that could be done by training those supervisors and with some development and some support, engagement skills, and those sorts of topics, interaction styles, and also involvement in RAMs, risk assessments and method statements. If they're involved in developing those documents, then they have a full understanding and are more engaged and have more buy-in to the whole process. Conducting safety audits, and also using their subject matter expertise, actually getting supervisors to share their input into the whole safety process. Okay, so how can occupational psychology contribute in this area? Well, in terms of I'll use these abbreviations, LTD, LEM, etc., but I'll explain them as we go. So LTD, Learning, Training and Development, occupational psychology's contribution. This can be obviously investing in supervisor training. This can be transformational, not only for the competence and confidence of the supervisors themselves, but also the subsequent effects on the teams that they manage. Supervisors need to develop their people skills quite often. So that's about communication, teamwork and collaboration, things around active listening and emotional intelligence, these sorts of topics. So the supervisor's more confident to address challenges and challenge those unsafe behaviours, for example. Because that can be quite difficult, particularly in sectors such as construction or agriculture, for example. So occupational psychology contributes by having that systematic approach based on a training needs analysis, training design, methods, and that, as I've said previously, importantly but often overlooked, proper evaluation of training. So that's where the LTD comes in. In terms of LEM, leadership, engagement and motivation, that's where that evidence-based practice, the leadership theory and engagement and motivation, driving safety performance, where we're using that evidence-based practice. Okay, so they're the primary ways that occupational psychology contributes here. There's a secondary contribution from the psychological assessment at work, wellbeing at work, work design, organisational change and development. It's a little more secondary, but I'll run through it. In terms of psychological assessment, that would be relevant for recruitment and promotion. So if supervisors are being recruited into the business or people are being promoted, then there would be assessment, and that could be to do with attitudes and capabilities, people management skills. So again, that's a systematic approach. We base that on job analysis, person specification. It would minimise bias in the process, a transparent process. You'd aim for identifying relevant competencies, both technical and people competencies. And you might use some assessment materials, situational judgment tests, for example. So that's where psychological assessment at work would contribute here. With the wellbeing thing, that's a bit of a secondary impact, really. Recognising the links between wellbeing and performance, including safety performance, is very important. So that could be something about mental health awareness, shift patterns and fatigue, work-life balance, these sorts of issues. If a supervisor's more aware of the impact of well-being, then that sort of permeates through to the team, and that can only be a good thing. And okay, just to round this one off, the work design, organisational change and development, as I've put as a secondary effect, a contribution. I'm thinking there in terms of if it was an organisational level intervention where safety culture could be a sort of banner initiative where the supervisor's role is is promoted within that. So that's a sort of bigger picture organisational level intervention. So not every supervisor's training programme exists within a wider organisational level intervention, but what I've done is given a nod to that aspect of occupational psychology practice relevant to the leadership and engagement skills aspect. So there we are. That's the first one. We've got to develop leadership and engagement skills with these supervisors, and that's how occupational psychology can contribute to that. Moving on, what else can occupational psychology contribute to transforming the role of supervisors? Well, this comes with embedding positive safety behaviours into the organisational culture. And this is where we get into modelling safe acts, always demonstrating the correct safety behaviours, and challenging unsafe acts. That's always addressing the unsafe behaviours. So, modelling safe acts, challenging unsafe acts. This is based on Heinrich's triangle, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, where a larger number of unsafe acts can lead to a medium-sized number of near misses, near hits, and leads to the smaller number of major accidents, major incidents. So the theory is smaller the bottom, smaller the top. So if we focus on having fewer unsafe acts, the likelihood is that will mean fewer major accidents, which can only be a good thing. So what needs to happen, and the supervisor's got a really key part in this process, is that the safe acts need to be modelled consistently and embedded to become the social norm, so i.e. the typical behaviour. This is 100% modelling. Supervisor cuts a single corner, undermines the whole process. So the supervisor is really key in transmitting that safety policies onto the ground and modelling those behaviours for the workforce to follow. Okay, and they need to be 100% challenging as well. If a supervisor walks past an unsafe act or condition, they're perceived to condone it. So it's about that challenging and providing safety coaching whenever, wherever they can. So, so the supervisor is absolutely key in that. And another angle on that is getting the supervisors involved in the safety audits, and they'll become more aware and challenge the behaviour. So that's an absolutely key factor transforming the role of supervisors, getting their safety leadership, modelling safe acts and challenging the unsafe acts. So how do you do that? How does occupational psychology contribute? Well, this means developing the supervisor's people skills, interaction skills. So again, we're back to training, learning, training and development, support, communication skills, interpersonal skills, and their involvement in exercises, for example, scenario exercises or situational judgment tests, where they get the opportunity to practice what it feels like to challenge an unsafe behaviour from an actor we might use sometimes, and that can be really high value learning experience. So again, how might occupational psychology contribute? We've got 5 areas again in broadly the same layout. In terms of learning, training and development, some supervisors instinctively good with soft skills. Others may have progressed to supervisory roles as a result of their technical expertise, as I said earlier. So they might not have had the opportunity to develop those communication and interpersonal skills to such a high level. However, with the right training and development, they can be supported to refine their techniques, improve relationships, etc., and drive that safety performance through their people skills. So again, in training, we're looking at systematic approach, training design, training needs analysis, linking the training to safety metrics. So what's that? That means looking at, say, number of lost time injuries. How does that relate to the safety training provided to supervisors, and we can trend that over time and see the effect that the training can contribute to, with all sort of with a nod to using those metrics and not inferring too much from them beyond what is reasonable. However, anyway, that's a separate topic. Looking at leadership, engagement, and motivation, we're definitely talking about those interpersonal skills again. We're talking about supervisors building relationships with employees. That means that they're going to engage and build that trust. So that could be like empathy and listening skills in the training, that sort of thing. So using leadership, engagement, and motivation to drive safety performance by training the supervisors in those skills. That's the primary contribution. And previously said about secondary contributions of psychological assessment at work, which would be to do with the recruitment and selection. You might use psychological assessment materials like questionnaires and situational judgment tests, those sorts of things. Behaviourally anchored rating scales you might use to inform a selection process. Wellbeing at work. That's the links again, as I've previously said, towards wellbeing and safety, and the work design, organisational change and development. Again, secondary link if this whole initiative is part of a wider cultural intervention. Okay, so that's it. What we've got to do is embed those positive safety behaviours into the culture, and we do that by further training of the supervisors in these modelling safe acts, challenging unsafe acts skills. Very good. Okay, moving on then. What else can occupational psychology contribute to transforming the role of supervisors? What we can do is transform supervisors' safety performance capabilities. So what we're talking about here are safety audits and toolbox talks. Now, most organisations of any size conduct safety audits and toolbox talks, certainly in the sort of sectors that I'm familiar with, the major hazard sectors and the construction sectors. Safety audits and toolbox talks for the shift teams is a very regular feature of the work. So let's have a look then. Safety audits, recording observations, discussions with workers on site, these sorts of things. For them, you need observation skills, people skills, those interaction skills. And for toolbox talks, that's obviously presentation skills, again, interaction styles and skills, all that sort of thing. So when carrying out safety audits, it's important to stop and discuss as well as observe. So supervisors, some simple skills to influence someone towards safe behaviour, right there in the safety audit discussion. You want to do some feedback and questioning, those sorts of things. You do open-ended questions, and having a format where you're praising the good. You can praise someone's good aspects of the work you're observing, but then you might ask, how can we improve this? How could this be made even better? And you're allowing that other person then to come up with the answers. So using open-ended questioning, it's a really good technique during safety audits. Okay, so if you want to get most out of toolbox talks, the supervisor needs to deliver them with high impact. So that means they need presentation skills, active listening skills, feedback and coaching skills. And this honestly should not be underestimated. This definitely normally requires supervisor training to deliver effective toolbox talks and to get the value out of the time spent actually doing that. So that means proper planning, preparation, and as I said, time set aside for the toolbox talks, because that's quite an important thing. Getting time in a busy schedule can be quite challenging. Okay, Okay, so and also using obviously a range of context-specific examples, but what we also recommend is sharing learning from other industries, because that's often quite interesting to the shift teams to see how another industry can have a similar challenge and address it and share that learning. So that's they definitely shouldn't just be tick box exercises, safety audits and toolbox talks, and they fundamentally rely on effective people skills to get the most out of the time invested in doing those. So again, how does occupational psychology contribute? We've got the usual suspects of learning, training, development, and leadership, engagement, and motivation as primary contributors. So we found some organisations developing guides and pocketbooks, aid memoirs, to help supervisors become more confident talking about safety in general, because it can be a complex subject. There's a range of topics, working at height, confined space, etc., and many abbreviations and acronyms such as COSH, LOLA, ATEX, etc. So what we've found is in terms of learning, training, and development, it's that systematic approach again. Training, design and delivery methods, development of these guides and pocketbooks and aid memoirs, doing that considering the theories of delivering learning and transfer of training and evaluation, all that to get the most out of that investment in the training session. That's how occupational psychology contributes. And again, in referencing leadership, engagement and motivation, what we're looking at there is again using the evidence-based practice from the leadership literature, engagement and motivation theories, and linking that to safety performance and building that into the training. That's absolutely essential. Doing it properly. That's how we promote it. So I've also marked up there as previously the secondary contributions of psychological assessment at work, so that would be recruitment and selection again, the well-being, how that links to as more of a impact in a way, in that it's having these supervisors trained in these engagement skills can have a positive impact on the well-being of their teams, because they are more cognizant and aware of that angle, and such as stress management in the workplace, and how they can impact on that positively. And again, there's work design, organisational change, and it is more of a wider organisational level effect or impact, and and that's not the primary focus of this session. So I'll move on. Okay, and ask again, what else can occupational psychology contribute to transforming the role of supervisors? And that is in prioritising these people skills. So, as I've been saying, supervisors need to have the confidence in having these safety conversations, and that needs the right interpersonal skills. Okay, so such as recognising the subtle changes in employees' behaviours. They need to be able to get to know their people, so that means investing in time for regular contact, listening to everyone, those sorts of things. It needs an investment to get to this point, and the right interpersonal skills, fundamentally that means coaching skills. Supervisors need development in coaching skills. So such examples of that is praising wherever possible. Positive feedback obviously goes a long way. Making it personal with the team, so getting personal commitment to act on safety. Using the word "but" correctly. An example is do the job by the end of the day, but do it safely. That's the right way round, not the other way round. The important message comes after the "but" in the sentence. Okay. And so framing conversations in terms of loss, for example, people don't like losing things. We feel a greater sense of loss for £100 loss than £100 gain, for example, if there's referencing how people perceive investments in the stock market. People feel a stronger sense of loss than a sense of gain for the same equivalent monetary value. So in terms of how you might translate that into safety, would be, you could say that you could frame safety conversation in terms of good health could be lost, for example. So also, supervisor needs to be aware that people don't like losing face during safety conversations. Don't like being put on the spot, and so what would face be? Face represents self-esteem, reputation, status, dignity, even. So it's important for supervisors to be aware of this and keep their cool. Don't interrupt. Show respect during the conversation, so everyone can preserve their dignity and reach positive outcome. These sort of communication and coaching skills are absolutely vital, so the supervisor can engage the team rather than switching them off from safety. Okay, so then this really this leads. So we do that. The training, that's a training aspect. Using real world practice interactions with role players, for example. That would be where learning, training, development contributes. And in terms of leadership engagement and motivation, though, we're looking at developing a high level of trust between supervisors and those around them. So the team consistently wants to demonstrate those safe behaviours and engages in discussions during challenges, for example, those sorts of things. So you can see, I'm sure, that the absolutely vital interpersonal skills within supervisors help to build that sort of positive environment and respectful relationships. So that's where the leadership and engagement motivation comes in. And just to cover them off, the psychological assessment of work would be, again, if you're recruiting for those sorts of roles, wellbeing at work, the links of stress management, as I've said, and work design, organisational change, broadly speaking, as if this is all happening within a wider safety culture intervention. Okay, so moving through, finally, how else might occupational psychology contribute? We're looking at empowering supervisors for the benefit of people in the organisation. So all this sort of investment in training, doing it properly, leadership, engagement, motivation, skills for supervisors, it all needs support from senior leaders in the organisation. So supervisors, they need to feel empowered so they can invest their time in the safety function. Okay, so with the aim to create the right sort of organisational environment for supervisors to prioritise safety. That needs stuff like regular learning and development opportunities to embed the skills, supervisors taking a leading role in safety initiatives, for example, so they can develop their skills further. This all needs support from the organisation. So that could be in terms of directors' safety briefings. It could be organised peer group meetings, so supervisors could share amongst themselves, other events where they get where time is actually set aside. So that's having that commitment and investment from the organisation to do this development of supervisors in order to then impact on the safety. Okay, because the supervisors need competence and confidence to promote safety, and they need to know they've got the formal support of the organisation, so they can take time on this task and not be concerned that they could be criticised. So that clearly visible endorsement from senior leaders, absolutely vital. Okay, so occupational psychology contributes by providing the tools and techniques for developing supervisors' confidence with leadership, engagement, and coaching skills. This is actual effective supervisor safety leadership. We're looking at training, doing training correctly, with the methods and the transfer, the different modes of learning, and of course its evaluation. And then we're drawing on the research and theory and good practice, best practice for leadership, engagement and motivation drawn from the literature, and combining those to develop the supervisor's skills. Okay, and the other psychological assessment of work, well-being and work design, as previously mentioned. So, in summary, the recommendations are broadly that it's vital to recruit and promote supervisors with strong interpersonal skills to increase safety performance. The link there is absolutely vital, and include communication and coaching skills as key components of supervisor training. And this way, you can drive up safety performance in the workplace. And the way that occupational psychology contributes to this is through the tools and techniques for leadership, engagement and coaching, and also the effective training and development techniques to transfer those skills into the behaviours of the supervisors and therefore impact safety. Okay, thank you. Well, that's my summary slide there of supervisor safety leadership, and I'll sign off now. My name's Simon Bates, and I hope you enjoy the following sessions of the conference. Thank you. Goodbye.